All right, so today we're going to be going over the Rogue Arsenal distraction device. So the pros, cons, my overall review after a couple weeks of testing. So without further ado, let's get going. All right, so before we get started, I'd like to thank the sponsor of today's video, who just happens to be Worthless Handler. You thought I actually had sponsors. I ain't that legit yet. Well, we got the CEO right here. Follow here. Push. Here. Here. Up. Hello, sir. Would you like to add anything? Okay. Oh, really? Really? I don't know if you guys could hear that. Yep. He just said that Worthless Handler is absolutely the world's leading manufacturer of morale within the canine industry. Wow, what a nice thing to say. Anything else? Throw the con. Got it. Okay. All right, so, anywho, thanks, Worthless Handler, sponsoring this video. I met the owner, kind of an idiot, but hey, he tries hard, and that's all we can ask for. So, without further ado, let's get this thing started. Push. All right, so here's how the product comes to you. Comes in a nice watertight case. The device, an extra safety pin, everything set in foam. Let's start out with the obvious testing, which is some pavement here. I don't think it's any surprise that I had zero issues with it detonating on concrete, pavement, or any of the other surfaces. So. And then we will get into some gravel here. And just like the pavement, I didn't have any issues with it going off on any kind of gravel. And then flowing from the gravel, tossing it up against a shipping container. Again, absolutely no problems with it detonating against a gigantic steel structure. Who would have guessed? And now on to some interior stuff. So as you can see from this beautiful move-in ready trailer, I had a great little training environment, and I tossed from the outside of the windows. You're going to see it coming in here. And nice, beautiful hit up against the opposite side wall. No issues with it up against the wood paneling. And I'm going to replay this real quick frame by frame. I just thought visually that was a pretty cool impact there. All right, here comes another toss from outside. I hit the piano pretty low. Still no issue. It hit pretty solid piece on the piano. And here's a second toss where I get it up a little bit higher. And pretty cool shot. And true story, because of how nasty this place was, it took me like 15 minutes trying to find the device after it bounced off. I had to replay this video to see like the trajectory of it and to find it. Yeah, this trailer was gross. And moving on into the lovely kids room here. Just some more testing up against the wood paneling and having absolutely no issue. Here's some of the aftermath or damage done. So kind of depending on where the impact is the severity of the damage. Alright, so I wanted to see how the single pane window would hold up to an impact. So the first throw is going to be above the window here. Good impact. Window is still intact. A second throw here, I aim low and hit on the plywood portion of the window frame. Another good impact, and the glass is still intact. And this one, I was aiming for the window, but I actually hit the aluminum frame right in the middle. And shockingly, the window is still intact. The next one, my aim was way better and pretty hilarious because we did not get a detonation, but we did get some good penetration.
That's what she said. Michael.
All right, so knowing it'll go right through a single pane, I found a dual pane glass window outside, so I wanted to test the same thing of whether or not it would just go right through the window or it would actually detonate against the window. And there's the device sitting in some dry leaves, cool to the touch. And checking the window, window's still perfectly intact, just some cosmetic damage from the blast. I thought that was a crack at first. It's not, it's just some dirt, so no damage. So the trailer had no drywall in it, shockingly. So here's some various clips of me hitting this wall. This one's rad just because it lodges in the wall. Alright, as you can see, I had no issues up against the drywall. Shockingly, my wife wouldn't let me throw this in the house to test it on drywall, so I had to build a little wall. So it's built, studs 16 on center. It's non-insulated like an interior wall would be. And I would even assume if it was insulated, it'd give the drywall more backing, which would make it even harder. But I had no issue with detonating. Some of them did hit on the stud, which is obviously going to give it a nice hard surface to detonate against, but a lot of these were far away, did not impact at the stud. Did do some good damage to the drywall, but no issues. Alright, so now we're going to do some testing on the vehicle. First throw is going to be against this front driver's side window. We know it to be safety glass. We know it's not going to penetrate. And then we'll go on and test a couple of different areas here. Alright, the goal here was to see if I could get it to detonate against the tempered glass without shattering it. And no issue there. You can actually see in my reflection it's just a light underhand toss into the glass with a good hit. Alright, so second throw at the same window. The goal this time was to make it through the glass. So you can see in the reflection that it's an overhand throw, and I had no issue defeating the glass with that. Alright, so here is the walk around of the car once I was done with it. Some of the windows are still intact, like here. Some are not. My goal here was to see if I could get some predictable outcomes on defeating the glass based on how I threw it. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to punch through the safety glass and whatnot, but as far as all the rear tempered glass, if I threw it overhand with some force, made it through no problem, still detonating. If I didn't want to make it through the glass, just wanted an outside hit, just throwing it underhand against the body panel or the glass, and I could still get a good detonation without damaging it. So operationally, that could be important for you to know, whether or not maybe you're dealing with somebody outside of a car that's not involved, or whether you're dealing with a suspect inside a car and you do need to defeat some glass to get visual on different munitions, dog, whatever inside. But it's nice to know that just based on how you tailor the throw is how you can have different outcomes with the device. All right, so let's get into some of the pros. One being the cost. So the cost is $250 for the device, and then the rounds are roughly $1.80 a piece. So in comparison to the traditional flashbangs, the one-time $250 purchase, and then you are reloading this at $1.80 a round. So the reloadable aspect of the device, and for a pretty cheap price of $1.80 per hit, is pretty dang good. All right, now speaking of reload, I want to demonstrate just how simple and easy it is. Obviously, you render it safe, put the pin in, and this was how it would do 90% of the time. Flick of the wrist, you'd be able to extract it real easy and replace it. Very rarely did a spent cartridge ever get stuck in there. But when it did, I'll demonstrate right here is how I would use the existing pin or the safety pin. You just kind of angle the pin at a 45-degree angle to be able to catch the corner of the shell and just punch it out with the safety pin, so you don't have to carry any kind of special tools to reload. Some of the other things, it's cool to the touch immediately after it detonates. So you can pick it up, reload it. You don't have to wait for it to cool down. Don't have to have gloves on, which is pretty sweet. Another thing that I like is there's no time delay. So there's no fuse, you're not waiting for a cook-off. When you throw it and it lands or impacts something, you're gonna know immediately whether or not it was good or not. So if you strike the wall or floor, vehicle, whatever it is, and it does not go, you know you have a bad hit, and you're not waiting to see if there's an issue with the fuse, the pyro, anything like that. You know if it's good or bad immediately. So if you have a secondary, or if you want to go render it safe. And another thing, rendering it safe, super easy. Pick it up and put the pin in. At that time, you can either inspect the cartridge, see if it was a light primer strike, or just do it for Dale and send it again, which is what I always do. So for some testing purposes, I did just look to see, okay, I had light primer strikes, still didn't have issues with getting that shell to go off. So just out of curiosity, I'd look, yep, light primer strike, pull the pin, chuck it a little bit harder or at a different location, and had good detonations. All right, for those that are already been through a less than lethal course, instructor course, or certified or whatever you want to say on utilizing flashbangs operationally, the operation of this, or the deployment concept, is very similar. So when it comes to the training aspect of getting guys comfortable and used to this, it's almost immediately pull, pin, and throw. So besides a spoon, which I mean is just for cool factor, obviously, the sound of a spoon flinging is awesome. But I mean, pull, pin, and throw. I mean, it doesn't get more simple than that. And speaking of the simplicity of it, so during the vehicle testing, there were probably like 8 dudes that came out wanting to see what I was doing. And I was like, hey, you guys want to throw it? And pull, pin, and throw. Every single one of them picked it up, had no issues, was comfortable with it. So that kind of shows the simplicity of it. And the cool factor, I mean, who doesn't want to throw stuff that goes bang? So those dudes enjoyed it. All right, another pro, there is no fragmentation from the device itself. Now, that's going to be environment dependent. So some of the times I would throw it in gravel. Obviously, it's going to throw some rocks. If you throw it inside against something, throw it against maybe drywall, you may have some fragmentation from some of the pieces of the environment. But the device itself does not. Another big pro is that it is not ATF regulated. So there's no special requirements to be able to access one, which is really nice, especially for the training aspect. There's no special storage needed. You're literally handling 12 gauge blanks, so you don't have to have them in specific environments, temperature controlled environments, things like that that can roll around the back of your car and no big deal. All right, so these things are coming in at around 170, 175 decibels, which is very comparable with your traditional banks. Same thing with the overpressure. So these are at 6 foot in testing, about 1.5 psi overpressure. As far as sound and the concussion effect is very comparable. All right, so on to some of the cons. The biggest con is it's surface environment dependent. So obviously I can't throw this on some couch cushions and have success. It needs to be a hard surface. And I went through some testing, had some failures that we'll go over in a minute. So for example, here's an environment it does not work well in. It looks frozen, but this hillside's just super sloppy and muddy. And so I throw it here and obviously get no detonation. We're gonna go over here to some snow. My buddy John's gonna do 3 different tests with a light toss, kind of a medium toss here, and then he's gonna chuck this bad boy pretty hard and get a pretty good detonation there. All right, so this is another failure I had, which is against a hollow core door in a janky door jamb that's got some play in it. So I did not get it to detonate against the door, but once it bounced off the door, it did detonate on the ground. All right, and on this one, I just so happened to somehow hit like the only 2 hangers hanging up in the closet, and it kind of broke the momentum from impact. And it just fell nice and gently on that loose piece of carpet. So one of those crappy moments where I just happened to hit something else to kind of buffer it. But now that the hangers are out of the way, did a secondary throw and right up against the wall, having no issues. But that's the biggest con. But as long as you understand it, that's not what its purpose is to be able to detonate anywhere, and that's where you're going to have your fuse-based devices. But when you understand that, you understand what your target should be to get this to detonate, then it's not a big deal. But it is a con. The other thing is, like I'm going to pull up, is there's still a fire hazard. So it's extremely low in comparison to a pyro-based bang. But the hazard is still there. There's still a danger of fire. So just things to be aware of. All right, so let's do a fire hazard test. I've got a cardboard box and a roll of packing paper. I'm gonna throw a little steel plate in the bottom just to make sure we get a good detonation and to hold the box down. And let's see if we end up lighting any of this on fire, which this is, you can't get much more like flammable paper than super thin packing material. So all right, I'm gonna switch you guys over to slow-mo, try to angle it down and do a drop, and let's see what happens. Alrighty, here we go. Nothing on fire. I don't see any embers. Oh, okay, we got a little bit of embers here. The wind is going pretty good, which is going to keep these alive. So we got just a little bit. no flames. So still a risk, still a hazard, but nothing in comparison with some of the pyro based flashbangs. The other thing is just durability. I mean, it's still a new product, and I was able to break it, and I'll go over that shortly. All right, so let's talk about the durability. Specifically, how I was able to break one. Now, when I got this from him, he gave me the instructions. I want you to try to break it. Bring it out of its threshold, thrash it, and I told him, if you're making stuff designed for cops, specifically handlers, they're gonna break stuff. We're hard on stuff. We give one too many ugga-duggas when we throw things or when we tighten things. It's just gonna happen. So he told me, that's the disclaimer, try to break it. So I did. How I did that was throwing it as if it was the last pitch of the World Series against a steel shipping container. Again, it's probably not how you're going to live deploy any kind of flashbang, is throwing it overhand as hard as you possibly can against a gigantic chunk of steel. But that's what I did. And what happened was the little spring for the wobbler that activates the firing pin broke. So as soon as that broke, I called him, let him know. His response was exactly what a business owner's response should be when something of theirs breaks. Fantastic. Thank you for finding a weak point. I can't wait to make it stronger, better for another version. I'll send you a box. Send this back to me. I already got a new one on the way to you. Phenomenal. That is how you do it. Anyways, so what he did some engineering, redesigning, tougher springs, blah, 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 science, and sent me a new one. And I have been absolutely thrashing it. The funny thing is, so I wanted to test if what he did fixed the problem. So I'll dub in the video, but I did the same thing. I threw this thing as if I was, again, pitching for the World Series against a chunk of safety glass on this Jeep here that you're about to see. Anyways, didn't break the window. But what happened was, and I'll show you, as soon as I pick up the flashbang after throwing it at it, I undo it. As you can see, I actually look in the lower portion of the device because I was going to extract the shell, but it was actually lodged in the top half because the firing pin over penetrated and lodged against the inner wall where the firing pin comes through at. And the firing pin was stuck. So I thought, okay, cool. Did I break it or not? I took a screwdriver, pushed the firing pin in, it kind of popped it back into its spot, and I have been using this bad boy since. It's had another, I don't know, probably 20 rounds through it since I did that. So it is in fact fixed from his very first version where he just updated the springs. And I have not been able to break the second one off, going through very similar testing with it. So that's awesome. And again, kudos to Rogue Arsenal for handling it the way he did, of wanting to find failures. It's just like dog handling. We want to find our deficiencies so that we can fix them. Same thing with them. So props to you guys for wanting to find problems in it, wanting to find failures, finding them, rejoicing about it, and making it better. So good on you guys. Alrighty, so after going through quite a bit of testing with it, I am super happy with it. And I have thrown my fair share of flashbangs. I've gone through pyros. I've gone through instructor courses of other less lethal products. I have used similar devices that use the 12 gauge blank as well. In fact, we were using it at the ATK9 conference last year, and we're having some issues out of it. I have yet to have an issue out of this, besides the failure where I broke the spring, and it has since been corrected. I've used other devices like these These use a 22 caliber ram set. It's like an airsoft base. These are absolute trash. Super just trash. They're like, it's like a spinning time, depending on where you do it. It's a time delay. Sometimes it's is absolute trash. I feel like I've put it through its paces. I've put it through a bunch of different environments, and I've chucked it way harder than he recommends it being chucked at. Again, it doesn't need an overhand pitch against things like steel structures to be able to get it to detonate. It's actually detonates really good on very light tossing. So I've had nothing but success out of it besides the failure of the spring, which was corrected. So it's a non-issue to me. And as with any, especially the dude, Dylan, who is manufacturing this, he's got the engineer and entrepreneur mindset where he's always wanting to make it better and make new products and all kinds of things. So I'm a big fan of you, Dylan, and I think you did a great job on this. And some of the other products that we have talked about is he's coming out with shortly a high output round, which will be even louder than this, which is ridiculous because this thing is loud. Every time I toss it in front of somebody that's never experienced a flashbang, or people that have experienced legitimate flashbangs, go, holy crap, that was way louder than I thought it was going to be. It's honestly shocking how good this thing is. The other thing is I talked about doing some quieter rounds. If you're going to be using it for the dog side, doing some acclimation, some successive approximation of building up to different decibel levels. So he's going to be working on that. I also made the suggestion of doing a bang stick attachment to where you can have it on a stick and do some directed hits if you so choose to maybe utilize this operationally. Does it have a place? I think so, but I'm also from the super cheap admin and agency side, where we don't have an agency that's going to go invest in legitimate bangs and have the support behind it needed. And I think this is a great alternative. Again, once you know its limitations of the environment that must be utilized to set it off, I think it's a great tool, and I think it can be used. But that's up to y'all's agencies, policies, and whatnot. But does it have a place? I think so. Why not? I'm all about trying to improvise, especially on a budget. All right, so whether or not you choose to try to implement this into live operations or not is up to you, but I think nonetheless it is a tremendous training device, especially the amount of reps you can get out of it for the cost. I think it's a non-issue. The other thing is you're supporting an American-made small business. There's one dude behind the scenes engineering it and doing all this stuff. Not only that, he's in the dog community. He's a decoy. So I'm all about supporting good people, especially people that want to make things better, make our community better, give us the tools to be able to train better, and keep this stuff in America. So be sure to check them out, support them. Nonetheless, go over to their social media and support them. And this is not like paid, by the way. I ain't on that level. This is just, I enjoy testing products. I enjoy testing things that I think are well thought of and well made. And I enjoy it, and I like supporting other small businesses, just as each and every one of you continues to support me, and I'm eternally grateful. I truly am. So if you guys support him, that would be awesome. And I guess that's it.